The polished marble floors of Carter Enterprises gleamed beneath the vast glass atrium. At this early hour, the headquarters was quiet, but soon the halls would hum with the buzz of one of New York's most powerful corporations. Alexander Carter, founder and CEO, stepped out of his private elevator. His bespoke suit hugged his lean frame, each movement purposeful, his gaze cool and distant. At 38, Alexander had it all: a multi-billion-dollar empire built from the ground up, a penthouse overlooking the city skyline, and a reputation most only dreamed of. He had long ago mastered control over every aspect of his life. Nothing surprised him until today. As he crossed the expansive lobby, focused on an imminent board meeting, a figure caught his eye. A woman, kneeling alone on the marble floor, methodically scrubbing at a stubborn stain with a faded cloth. Alexander's. Breath caught in his throat. It was her. Claire Bennett. The name echoed through his mind. For a moment, the world seemed to tilt. He stood frozen, heart pounding in a way it hadn't in years. There she was, hair pulled into a simple ponytail, wearing a gray janitorial uniform with a small cleaning company logo on the sleeve. Her face was older, lined by time and hardship, but unmistakable. The same delicate features he had memorized 2 decades ago. The woman he had once loved more than life itself. He whispered under his breath, almost afraid to believe it. Claire. Flooded by a wave of memories, late summer nights under the stars, whispered promises by the lake in their hometown of Willow Creek. Her tearful goodbye when he had left for university. Alexander barely registered the soft voice of his assistant approaching. "Mr. Carter," said Marianne, holding a tablet, "the board is waiting. Also, there have been some complaints from staff about the new cleaning crew. You approved the contract yourself last month." But Alexander did not respond. His eyes remained locked on Claire, his Claire. On her knees, unaware of his gaze, sensing something amiss, Marianne added gently, "Sir?" Alexander's voice came low and unsteady. "Tell the board I'll be there in 5 minutes." Then, after a pause, he asked, "Who hired this cleaning company?" "Operations department last month," Marianne replied. "Budget cuts." Alexander nodded absently. Understood. He took a slow, steadying breath. He had to know why Claire Bennett, the woman he had once promised to love forever, was scrubbing his floors. He crossed the lobby, each step deliberate, heart thundering in his chest. Standing a few feet away, Alexander finally spoke, voice quieter than he intended. "Claire." She stiffened at the sound of her name but did not look up. "I'll be done here soon," she said quickly, her tone formal, detached. "I won't be in your way, sir." That voice, polite, professional, as if he were a stranger, pain sliced through him. He tried again. "It's me, Alexander." Slowly, she stood, her face turned toward him, eyes the same deep hazel he remembered. But there was something else now. Weariness, guarded caution. She looked at him evenly. "I know who you are, Mr. Carter. Everyone does." Alexander struggled to find the right words. "I can't believe it's really you. After all these years." Claire crossed her arms, her voice flat. "It's been 20 years. A young supervisor from the cleaning crew approached, sensing the tension. "Is there a problem here, Miss Bennett?" Claire quickly shook her head. "No problem. I was just finishing up." Alexander couldn't stop himself. "Miss Bennett?" he asked softly. "You didn't marry?" She corrected him, her gaze averted. "No, I never married." The supervisor, still watching, said, "Miss Bennett is one of our best employees. Mr. Carter, any disruption will be minimal." Without taking his eyes off Claire, Alexander replied, "Could we have a moment?" The supervisor hesitated, then nodded and walked away. Now they stood alone in the vast, echoing lobby. Alexander's voice was gentle, Claire. What happened? Why are you working here? Claire looked up at him then, her voice sharp. You mean, why am I a cleaner? Alexander flinched. She continued, tone hardening. Not everyone gets to live their dreams, Alexander. Some of us do what we can to survive. He felt a wave of shame. Quietly, he said, I tried to find you. After my first year at college, I came back. Your mother said you'd moved. I didn't. No. There was a flicker of emotion in her eyes. Then her voice cracked slightly. My mother passed away 6 months after you left. Medical bills wiped us out. I had to sell the house. College wasn't an option anymore. Alexander's world seemed to tilt again. I didn't know. I'm so sorry, Claire. Her voice turned cold. If you had known, what would you have done? Saved me? Sent money? She shook her head. It doesn't matter now. Claire gathered her cleaning supplies. Alexander could not let her walk away. Please, he said softly, reaching out but stopping short of touching her. Can we talk after your shift? Just catch up? She looked at his hand, then back to his face. For a moment, something old flickered behind her guarded gaze. Then she said, I finish at 6. There's a coffee shop across the street. Alexander exhaled slowly. I'll be there. She gave a curt nod and walked away, leaving him standing alone in the vast, gleaming lobby where for the first time in years the marble and glass felt cold. And empty. At precisely 6 o'clock, Alexander sat in the far corner booth of the small coffee shop. His fingers drummed anxiously on the wooden table. He had changed out of his suit, now wearing dark jeans and a simple shirt. Somehow it seemed wrong to show up in the symbols of a life that had left her behind. Outside, the city bustled with its usual evening rhythm. Inside the cafe, the warm lights and quiet hum of conversation felt like a world apart. He checked his watch again. 6:02. Then the door opened. Claire walked in, her hair now loose around her shoulders, wearing worn jeans and an old blue sweater. She scanned the room, her gaze settling on him. For a heartbeat, she hesitated. Then she came over and sat across from him. Alexander's voice came low, almost unsure. I wasn't sure you'd come. Her tone was calm. Neither was I. A waitress appeared. They both ordered coffee, black for him, with cream and sugar for her, just like all those. Years ago, Alexander studied her, trying to read what lay beneath the composed exterior. You look. Well, he began carefully. Please, Claire interrupted, voice soft but firm. No empty compliments, no pretending. Just say what you came to say. He leaned forward, his voice earnest. What happened to us, Claire? We had plans. We were going to wait for each other. Claire's hands tightened around her coffee cup. Life happened, she said quietly. After you left, my mother's illness got worse. The treatments cost everything. After she died, there was nothing left. Alexander's throat tightened. But why didn't you reach out to me? I would have helped. A faint, bitter smile touched her lips. And with what, Alexander? You were barely scraping by yourself on a scholarship. Besides, she paused, your letters stopped coming. A knot formed in Alexander's chest. I wrote for months. When you didn't reply, I thought you'd moved on. Confusion flickered across Claire's face. I only got a few. Then nothing. Their coffees arrived, giving them a moment to collect their thoughts. Alexander's mind raced back. He remembered pouring his heart into those letters, waiting for replies that never came. Had someone kept them from her? Softly, he said, Your mother, she never liked me. Maybe. She didn't give you my letters. Claire's expression shifted, uncertainty mingling with old wounds. Maybe. I don't know. And now, it doesn't matter. Alexander shook his head. It does, because it means We didn't choose this distance. She looked down, struggling. To hold her composure, he asked gently, "Tell me about your life after everything." Claire took a breath. "I worked. Whatever I could find. Waitress, retail, cleaning. I moved here 10 years ago. The city's expensive, but I needed a fresh start." He hesitated. "And you never married?" She shook her head. "Came close once. Didn't work out." Alexander swallowed. "I'm sorry." "Don't be," Claire said simply. It wasn't right. For the first time, her gaze lifted, meeting his. "And you?" "The magazines call. You the self-made billionaire. You must have had a life." Alexander gave a quiet laugh, one without humor. "There were relationships, none that lasted. No one who fit. The truth came unbidden. No one was you." She looked away quickly, fighting the rising tide of emotion. "Don't," Claire whispered. "Don't rewrite history. You moved on, built your empire, and I scrubbed floors." "That's not fair," Alexander said softly. "I built this for you." Claire blinked. "What? Not for you." "Because of you," he admitted. "Because you always believed I could be. More, after you disappeared. I needed to prove it, to the world, to myself." Tears glistened in Claire's eyes, though none fell. "It doesn't change anything. We're different people now." Alexander leaned in. "Are we?" "Because sitting here, it feels like coming home." That last wall nearly crumbled, but Claire stood quickly. "I should go. This isn't a good idea." Panic rose in him. "Please, let me see you again. Just dinner, one dinner. If you want nothing after that, I'll respect it." She hesitated. Her grip on the chair tightened. Finally, she said, "One dinner, that's all." Relief surged through him. "Thank you." As she turned to leave, Alexander spoke once more, voice low but clear. "Claire, I never forgot you. Not for a single day." She didn't reply. But as she stepped into the night, Alexander saw her pause for a heartbeat before disappearing into the crowd. 2 days later, Alexander stood outside the small Italian restaurant tucked between a bookstore and a florist. Its faded sign simply read Vittorio's. He had chosen it deliberately, no cameras, no press, nothing too grand. A place from his early days in the city, before the wealth and headlines at 7 sharp. Claire arrived. She wore a simple navy dress, one he guessed. Had seen more than a few occasions. Her hair was loose again, a faint nervousness in her posture. "You look wonderful," Alexander told her as they entered. Claire replied with a quiet, "It's just dinner, remember?" Inside, Vittorio's was warm, almost timeless. Red-checked. Tablecloths, walls lined with old photographs, the aroma of fresh garlic and herbs filling the air. Vittorio himself, a stocky older man, greeted Alexander with a wide smile. "Ah, Mr. Carter, it's been too long. And your guest?" Alexander introduced her. "This is Claire, an old friend." Vittorio's eyes twinkled. An important friend, yes? Come, the best table for you." They were seated in a small alcove, semi-private but not hidden. Claire glanced around. "How do you know this place?" Alexander smiled faintly. "When I first came to the city, I was broke. Vittorio let me wash dishes for meals when I couldn't pay." She blinked, surprised. "You wash dishes?" "For months," he admitted, "before the first deals worked out." For the first time that evening, something softened in her expression. The waiter arrived. They ordered. Conversation came slowly at first, both treading carefully. Alexander asked, "Are you still taking night classes?" Claire nodded. "Business. A few at a time. It's single quotes S dot dot slow. That's not nothing, he said. That's determination. Claire. Look down. At this pace, I'll finish when I'm 50. Alexander's voice was steady. But you'll finish, and that's what matters. Their eyes met across the table. A current of something unspoken passed between them. She changed the subject. And you? Your empire. What drives you now? For a moment, Alexander hesitated. Then, honestly, for a long time, it was just momentum, until he didn't finish. He didn't need to. Claire's voice was quiet. Why did you really ask me to dinner, Alexander? Guilt? Nostalgia? He answered without hesitation. Because seeing you again reminded me what matters. Claire sat in thoughtful silence. Dessert arrived, tiramisu, Vittorio's specialty. They shared it. Conversation gradually easing. As they finished, Alexander asked gently, Have you thought about other work? You're taking classes. You shouldn't be scrubbing floors. Claire's tone held both pride and caution. I need a steady paycheck, rent, tuition. Life doesn't pause for dreams. Alexander nodded slowly. There's an opening. In my company, customer service. You have the skills. Claire's gaze hardened. You want to save me? Give me a job? No, Alexander said carefully. I'm offering an opportunity. One you've earned. She studied him for a long moment, weighing his words, wary of old wounds and new promises. Finally, her voice came quiet but firm. I'll think about it. A small smile touched his lips. That's all I ask. They stepped out into the night air. Standing beneath the streetlights, neither seemed ready to part. But Claire glanced at her watch. It's late. Alexander said softly, I meant it, you know? About the job. About this. Claire hesitated, then nodded. Good night, Alexander. She turned and walked away. And as she disappeared into the night, Alexander felt the stirrings of something he hadn't dared hope for in years. A second chance. A week later, Claire stood nervously in front of the towering glass facade of Carter Enterprises. She had done the interview. Passed it. Today was her first day as part of the customer service department. No more janitor's uniform. Her heart pounded as she stepped inside. The same marble lobby where she had once scrubbed floors now echoed differently beneath her heels. As she rode the elevator to the third floor, her mind swirled. Could she really belong here? The department was modern, open, humming with quiet activity. Her new supervisor, a kind-eyed man named Marcus, greeted her warmly. He said, with a reassuring tone, that they were glad to have her, that her experience and her determination would serve her well here. For a few days, Claire focused on learning everything. She buried herself in work, determined to earn her place, to not be seen as a charity case. But whispers began. It started. Small glances in the break room, conversations that stopped when she entered. By the end of the week, she knew why. Alexander had not hidden the fact that she was working there. And word of their dinner had spread. People talked, and higher up, someone else had noticed. One afternoon, as Claire sorted client reports, she was summoned unexpectedly to the executive floor. When she arrived, it was not Alexander who awaited her. James Carter, Alexander's older brother and chief operating officer, stood behind a vast desk. Impeccably dressed, polished smile, eyes cool and sharp. James gestured toward the chair across from him and said, in a clipped tone, that he wanted to welcome her to the company. Claire sat, sensing something behind the polite words. James continued, voice smooth as glass, explaining that Carter Enterprises valued professionalism, that it was important, for everyone's sake, to maintain appropriate boundaries. Claire looked him in the eye and replied that she understood professionalism very well, that she had no intention of causing disruptions. James's smile did not reach his eyes. He leaned forward slightly and remarked that sometimes, no matter how good intentions were, appearances mattered, and that not everyone could simply cross certain divides. Claire rose, her voice steady. She told him she had earned her place, that she intended to prove it. And with that, she left. But after that conversation, things shifted. Her desk was quietly moved to a far corner near the supply closet. Her computer began having strange glitches. Certain files vanished. Calls were rerouted. Claire noticed the change in her coworkers too. Some grew distant. Others avoided her entirely. At the end of the week, as she prepared to leave, a knock at her apartment door surprised her. It was Victoria Lancaster. Tall, elegant, dressed as though for a gala, Victoria stepped into Claire's modest space without waiting to be invited. She carried a slim envelope and a look of rehearsed sympathy. Victoria began speaking almost before the door had closed. She said that this wasn't personal, that she understood these things, but that Claire needed to understand what kind of man Alexander really was. From her bag, Victoria produced a small collection of photographs. In each one, Alexander appeared beside a different woman. Charity events, corporate galas, fine dinners, all elegant, all belonging to his world. Victoria's voice was soft but cold. She said that Alexander had a type, and that sooner or later, men like him always returned to their own kind. Claire kept her expression still, even as her stomach twisted. She said simply that she knew who she was and didn't need warnings. That Victoria could go, but after the door closed behind her visitor, Claire sat down, the photographs heavy in her lap. The doubts crept in. No matter how she tried to fight them, she asked herself the question she had buried since the coffee shop. Was this real? Or was she just another brief distraction in Alexander Carter's life? By morning, the old fears had a new voice, and Claire began to wonder if she had ever really escaped the shadows of the past. It was Alexander's idea. A public gala, no secrecy, no quiet dinners or hidden conversations. Just the two of them, together, in front of everyone. He had explained it simply to Claire. One evening after work, he told her, "The rumors won't stop if we hide. Let them see us. No mystery. No scandal." Claire had hesitated. Her instinct was to avoid the spotlight, but in the end, she had agreed. If this was to be real, there could be no hiding. And so, on the evening of the Carter Enterprises charity gala, Claire stood before her small mirror, her heart pounding. The emerald dress had been made by her neighbor, Sophia, a talented seamstress. It fit beautifully, simple, and elegant. But it wasn't the dress that made Claire nervous. It was the room she was about to walk into. Across the city, in one of the most exclusive hotels, the gala was already in full swing. The red carpet shimmered under the camera flashes. Executives, clients, celebrities, all of them gathered beneath glittering chandeliers, and they would all see her. At exactly 7:30, Alexander arrived at her door. The look in his eyes when she opened it erased her doubts, if only for a moment. He said softly that she looked incredible. She thanked him, voice quiet. He added that whatever happened tonight, he was proud to have her by his side. A sleek car carried them to the hotel. Outside, the photographers waited. As they stepped onto the carpet, Claire felt Alexander's hand steady on her back. Reporters called his name. One shouted a question, asking who was his guest. Without hesitation, Alexander answered for them all to hear that this is Claire Bennett, an old friend, a valued part of our team. Inside the grand ballroom, music floated through the air. Waiters moved through the crowd with champagne and trays of delicate appetizers. Claire stayed close to Alexander. He introduced her with the same clear honesty each time. No hidden meanings, no apologies. she began to relax just a little until James appeared. Impeccable in his black tuxedo, with Victoria Lancaster on his arm, James approached smoothly. He greeted his brother, then turned to Claire and said, "How lovely to see you here tonight." There was a flicker of something cold in his tone. Alexander replied simply, reminding him that he had mentioned Claire would be joining him. James smiled, and with the same practiced charm, he introduced Victoria. Victoria's words came softly. "Just for Claire." She said, "So you're the cleaning lady." "I've heard so much." Claire met her gaze calm. She replied that she was now part of customer service, and asked politely, "And what is it you do exactly?" Before Victoria could answer, James smoothly pulled the conversation back toward business. Later, on the dance floor, Alexander led Claire through the music. He told her quietly that she had been perfect tonight. She said, trying to smile, that she wasn't sure about that. He looked down at her, voice low. That none of this, the cameras, the whispers, mattered to him. Only this. Only them. She hesitated, heart tight. She said that sometimes it felt as though they were pretending, that she didn't belong in his world. Alexander answered firmly that she belonged wherever she chose to stand, and that tonight she had proven that to everyone. But before she could reply, a disturbance rippled through the room. At the entrance, a man was arguing with security. Loud, angry. Claire heard someone say the name, Michael Devereux. Alexander stiffened. Michael pushed past the guards, his voice raised. He was demanding to see Alexander, calling him a thief. Guests turned to watch. Whispers spread quickly. Claire stood frozen. Alexander moved to intercept the man, speaking calmly, trying to lead him away. But Michael would not be silenced. He accused Alexander of ruining him, of taking his company, of destroying his life. Security moved in. James gave a signal, and the man was escorted out. Alexander returned to Claire's side, his face pale. She asked softly if it was true, what the man had said. Alexander's voice came heavy, that the acquisition had been legitimate, that the company had been failing, but still, there had been consequences. Claire heard the guilt beneath his words. She asked quietly what else she didn't know about this world of his. Alexander looked at her then, his voice raw. He told her that he had built his empire clean, but that success could be a cold thing, and that sometimes even the right choices had sharp edges. Claire looked away, her heart conflicted. Later, as they stood beneath the night sky on the balcony, she spoke first. She told him that tonight had changed things, that she needed to think, to understand if this was truly a place she could belong. Alexander reached for her hand. He said that he would wait, however long she needed. She nodded once, then slipped away into the night, her heart torn between hope and the shadows of doubt. The days after the gala passed slowly. Claire buried herself in work, but the questions lingered. Each night, her thoughts circled back to Michael Devereux's accusations, to Victoria's warnings, to the photographs that still lay in a drawer, untouched but not forgotten. And to Alexander. He had sent her messages, careful, patient, no pressure. He wrote simply that he hoped she was well, that he was thinking of her. She hadn't replied, not because she didn't want to, but because she didn't yet know what to say. Then, late one night, everything changed. Claire had stayed late at the office, losing herself in the endless churn of emails and reports. It was Marcus, her supervisor, who came to her desk, face drawn. He said quietly that she should check the news, that something was happening at the company. Claire pulled out her phone. The headlines were everywhere. Scandal at Carter Enterprises. Allegations of fraud, of falsified financial reports. The words leapt from the screen, and at the center of it all, James Carter. Claire's heart pounded. She scanned the reports. Statements from anonymous sources. Words like collapse. Like investigation. She asked Marcus softly if Alexander was involved. He told her no one knew for certain. But the markets were reacting fast. Shares in free fall. The company's future uncertain. Without thinking, Claire grabbed her coat. Her neighbor Sophia called out from the hallway, asking what was happening. Claire answered quickly that she had to go, that Alexander would need someone tonight. The storm outside mirrored her own racing heart. By the time she reached Alexander's building, soaked and shivering, the hour was late. The doorman recognized her. His voice low, he said that Mr. Carter was upstairs, that he had sent everyone else away. Claire rode the elevator alone. Her reflection in the mirrored walls looked pale, determined. The penthouse was dark when she arrived. Only a single lamp burned in the corner of the vast living room. Alexander sat alone, a glass in one hand, his shoulders bowed. He looked up as she entered. His voice was hoarse when he spoke. He asked her why she had come. Claire stepped forward, her voice clear. She told him that she had seen the news, and that she couldn't stay away. Not tonight. Alexander's eyes filled with something close to disbelief. He said quietly that he had thought she might never speak to him again. Not after the gala. Not after Michael. And now, this. Claire moved closer. She told him that none of that mattered right now, that he didn't have to face this alone. He gave a bitter laugh. He said that the company might not survive, that James had been falsifying reports for years, that hundreds of employees could lose their jobs. Claire reached for his hand. She told him gently that he had trusted his brother, that the blame wasn't his. Alexander shook his head. He said that a leader should know, that he should have seen. For a long time they sat in silence, the rain lashing against the windows. Finally, Claire spoke. She told him that James had likely tried to separate them for exactly this reason, because he knew that Alexander might start asking questions, and that she, without meaning to, had been the catalyst. Alexander looked at her then. He said that maybe that was true, and that if it was, then he owed her more than an apology. He owed her his gratitude. He met her gaze. He said, his voice low, that he had spent so many years building his empire, and now none of it mattered. Not without her. Claire's heart ached. She told him that she had needed time, that she had doubted, feared that she didn't belong in his world. But tonight. Tonight had shown her what mattered. She said softly that she didn't care about the company or the headlines. She cared about him, about this. Tears shone in Alexander's eyes. He asked her if she was sure, if she was truly willing to face what was coming. Claire nodded once. She told him that she had faced harder things alone, that she wouldn't leave him to face this without her. Alexander drew her into his arms, holding her close. He whispered that he didn't deserve her. Claire's answer came steady. She told him that maybe he didn't, but he had her anyway. And so they sat, wrapped in each other, as the storm raged on, not knowing what tomorrow would bring. Only that, for now, they would face it together. The weeks that followed tested them both. Investigators flooded Carter Enterprises. Auditors pored over every file. The media circled, hungry for scandal. Alexander worked tirelessly, hour after hour, fighting to save what could be saved. Claire stayed by his side through all of it. She balanced her own work with quiet, constant support, listening, advising when he asked, reminding him that he was not alone. Slowly the truth emerged. James had been hiding losses for years, covering bad investments, falsifying quarterly reports. Fear of disappointing his younger brother had turned into deception. and then into something darker. The damage was enormous. But Alexander's open cooperation with authorities mattered. His genuine shock at James's actions, his refusal to hide behind lawyers, all of it helped. The company shrank, but it survived. Jobs were saved, though not all. The Carter empire, once unshakable, now stood battered but still standing. Alexander and Claire's bond deepened. They no longer hid. There was nothing left to hide. Some whispered, but most saw the truth, that this was not a story of scandal, but of two people finding each other through the wreckage. 1 year after the storm began, on a quiet spring evening, Alexander led Claire to the small park near her old apartment. It was simple. No photographers. No headlines. Just the two of them beneath the soft light of the setting sun. Alexander's voice was steady as he spoke. He told her that he no longer had all the wealth and power he once did, that there were fewer cars now, fewer headlines. But what he did have, his heart, his life, he wanted to share with her. Then he held out a small ring, simple, modest, not the dazzling diamonds he once could have offered, and he asked her to marry him. Claire looked into his eyes. She told him, with quiet certainty, that it had never been about the ring, or the empire, or any of it. She said that it was about the man standing before her now, the man who had fought not only for his company, but for her trust, for their future. And so she said yes. No cameras, no witnesses, just them. Later, as they sat together beneath the stars, Alexander's voice broke the silence once more. He told her softly that for 20 years he had tried to build something worthy of her. Claire rested her head on his shoulder. She told him that he had already done that, not with towers of glass or lines of wealth. But with the man he had become. And there, beneath the night sky, a new chapter began, not of an empire, but of a life, one built together, one that no scandal, no storm could tear apart.